My dear children, sit close and listen carefully. Today, I will tell you a story that I have kept hidden in the corners of my heart for many years. It is not just a story of my life, but also of the strange winds of fate that blew me from one place to another. You may wonder why I never spoke of it before, and perhaps you will ask yourself, what secret has Grandma been carrying for so long? The answer lies within the roads of a place called Mirzapur, a town so quiet by day and yet so mysterious by night. Before we begin, let me remind you of something important. This is a fictional story. Any names, places, or events I describe are created for storytelling purposes only. They are not connected to real people or real towns. This tale is meant to entertain and to share emotions, lessons, and memories in a way that you can carry in your hearts. Now let us begin. I was only 16 when I first left my small village of Darapura and moved to Mirzapur. The streets there were wide, filled with vendors selling fruits, spices, and fabrics. The air carried both sweetness and dust, and the people spoke in hurried tones as though they were always chasing after something unseen. My father sent me there to stay with my aunt, hoping I would study and grow into a woman of wisdom. But fate, my dear ones, had other plans. In the beginning, life in Mirzapur felt like a dream. My aunt's house stood tall with carved wooden doors, and every morning sunlight would dance through the coloured glass windows. I would wake to the sound of bells from the nearby temple, and sometimes to the haunting cry of a flute played by a stranger in the alley. That sound always gave me goosebumps, as if the music was calling my name. One evening, while returning from the market, I saw something that changed my life forever. At the edge of the street stood a boy no older than 18, his eyes sharp like the edge of a knife, and yet filled with a strange sadness. He was watching the crowd, but it felt as if his gaze pierced right through me. For reasons I could not explain, my heart trembled. That was the first time I saw Arman. Arman lived in the forgotten lanes of Mirzapur, where broken houses leaned against each other and shadows whispered in the dark. Rumours said his family had been cursed, that misfortune followed them like a black cloud. But I, foolish and curious, was drawn to him. Every time I crossed that lane, I looked for him, and more often than not, he was there, standing quietly as if waiting for something, or someone. Weeks passed, and one rainy afternoon I found myself lost near the old banyan tree outside town. The rain poured heavily and my umbrella had broken. Suddenly from the mist he appeared. Without a word, he offered me shelter beneath his tattered shawl. For the first time I saw the softness in his eyes. He said, "You should not be here, the night will come soon, and these lands remember things you cannot imagine." His words were strange, but instead of fear I felt warmth. From that day on, our paths began to cross more often. He spoke little, but whenever he did, it felt as though his voice carried secrets from another world. I learned that his mother had died when he was a child, and his father was a drunkard who had abandoned him. He survived on odd jobs, carrying sacks in the market or mending broken carts. Yet there was something about him that did not belong to Mirzapur, something hidden. One night, as I sat near the window of my aunt's house, I heard the sound of that same flute again. My heart raced. I followed the music, tiptoeing through the dark alleys, until I reached the old well near the outskirts. And there, in the pale light of the moon, I saw Arman playing the flute, his eyes closed, tears rolling down his face. When he opened his eyes and saw me, he froze. Then, in a trembling voice, he said, "You should not have come here." I asked him why. He looked toward the shadows of the trees and whispered, "Because they are listening." I did not understand then, but what I felt in that moment was a shiver deep in my bones. From that night forward, everything around me began to change. I noticed strange things happening, doors opening on their own, whispers in the dark, and shadows that seemed to move even when no one was there. At first, I thought it was my imagination. But then one evening, my aunt warned me never to go near the old well again. Her face turned pale as she told me that years ago, a woman had vanished there, leaving behind only her flute. My dear children, imagine my fear. The boy I had begun to trust, the boy whose presence felt like a safe harbour, was tied to a mystery far older and darker than I could comprehend. And yet, instead of staying away, my heart pulled me closer. That was the beginning of my journey, a journey into love, fear and secrets buried in the soil of Mirzapur. My dear children, you remember where I left off, don't you? The Festival of Lights had come to Mirzapur, and while the whole town bathed in laughter, music and joy, a storm was gathering in the silence of my heart. I had seen Arman near the old well, and I had felt the whispers of something far beyond my understanding. That night was the beginning of revelations I can never forget. The streets glittered with oil lamps, and every rooftop glowed with little fires of celebration. People sang, children played, and fireworks painted the sky. But in the middle of that beauty, I felt restless. My eyes searched for him, Armin. My soul wanted answers, though a part of me feared what those answers might be. Finally, near the outskirts, beyond the laughter of the town, I saw him. Alone, sitting on the stone steps of the well, the same flute resting on his lap. He wasn't celebrating. He wasn't smiling. His eyes reflected only grief. I walked to him, and before I could ask, he said in a hollow voice, "Do you know why the people of Mirzapur whisper about me? Why they say my family is cursed?" I stayed silent. He took a deep breath and continued. "My mother did not die by chance, she was taken. This well, it holds a spirit that never rests. She was the first, but not the last. That night you followed the music, I was playing her song, and when you came they heard you too. Now they will not leave you." My whole body froze. His words struck me like thunder. A spirit? Taken? And I had been seen. He looked at me with eyes burning like fire. "You should leave Mirzapur. Forget me. Forget this place. If you stay, you will suffer the same fate. But how could I, my children? How could I walk away when my heart had already chained itself to him?" I told him I was not afraid. Perhaps I was foolish, perhaps young love had blinded me, but I swore I would stand by him. That very night, something happened that proved his warnings true. As we spoke, a cold wind swept across the well, extinguishing the lanterns around us. I heard whispers, soft, echoing voices, neither man nor woman, as if the air itself was alive. The water of the well rippled, though no stone had fallen in. My hand shook, but Armin held it tight. He whispered, "Do not answer them. Do not speak." The voices grew louder, almost calling my name. I wanted to run, but his grip kept me rooted, and then silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. From that night forward, the bond between us deepened, but so did the danger. Doors creaked open at night. Shadows moved inside my room, and dreams began to haunt me. Dreams of a woman standing by the well, her face hidden, her hands clutching a broken flute. I would wake up trembling, the sound of the flute still ringing in my ears. My aunt noticed my restlessness. One morning she sat beside me and said, "Child, I know what you have seen. The curse of the well has touched you. Many years ago, when I was young, a woman disappeared from our family too. That well is not water alone, it is a gate, and once it calls your name, you can never escape it." I wanted to believe it was superstition, but deep down I knew it was truth. Armin, however, refused to surrender. "I will not let them take you," he said fiercely. "If they want me, so be it. But not you." The following week, the whispers grew unbearable. And then came the night of the great storm. The sky turned black, thunder roared, and rain fell as if the heavens were tearing apart. Armin called me to the well one last time. He said, "Tonight it ends." When I reached, I saw him standing at the edge, flute in his hands. His eyes looked calm, almost peaceful. He turned to me and whispered, "If I play her song tonight, they will take me, not you. Promise me you will live. Promise me you will tell this story one day." Tears blurred my sight. I begged him not to. I screamed that there must be another way. But he only smiled, a sad, gentle smile, and began to play. The melody rose, haunting and beautiful, and the storm seemed to bow to it. The well glowed faintly. The whispers turned into cries, and in a flash of light he was gone. The flute fell silent, rolling to my feet. I collapsed, holding it, screaming his name. But the storm swallowed my voice. When dawn came, the well was quiet, as if nothing had happened. Only the flute remained, wet and cold in my hands. I returned to my aunt's house, broken, carrying his memory and his sacrifice. From that day to this, I never spoke of him again. Until now. My dear children, remember this. Love is not always about joy. Sometimes it is about giving yourself away, even if no one remembers. Armin's story lives in me, and tonight, through my voice, it lives in you too. So when you hear the sound of a flute in the silence of the night, do not follow it. Do not answer it. For the well of Mirzapur still listens, still waits, and still remembers. And that is the story I carried in silence all my life.